And here's a brief summary of the content we're going to look at this morning. So some introductions and objectives, a brief look at what the future might look like, and with forecasts from a couple of authoritative organisations, and then we'll move on to providing you some useful tools that you can use to help identify future opportunities for yourself and your business. A little bit about myself and our objectives. I'm Barry Turner. I've been leading and consulting with marketing teams across several markets for some time now. And prior to that, had extensive sales and sales leadership experience across a number of different markets. I'm based here in Wales. I live in Chepstow. And over the last 5 years, I've conducted consulting sessions with about 50 different organisations on a variety of topics. My objectives for today are really quite simple. First of all, to provide you with a set of tips and actions to enable you to identify your future opportunities. And secondly, to enable you to write your own future little typo there, a future identifying opportunity action plan. So and I see this I, like yourself, and self-employed. There's in the business myself, and then my wife, my partner, does some work on admin. So I'm a small business. I have been affected by the lockdown in that I've had work delayed, I've had new opportunities like this webinar come up, and I've had other work cancel. So I broadly see the next couple of months as being an opportunity to strengthen my value proposition, broaden the services, and to do that, I'm doing a series of training courses and certifications, so that when we do come out, there will be new opportunities for me to work with different clients. And what I want to do today is give you some tools for you to be able to do that for your own business. So what does the future look like? And I would put a caveat in here and say, if I really knew what the future looked like, I would probably be a millionaire by now, and I'm a long way from being a millionaire. So I've collated some thoughts and from my reading and research, and also from talking with clients, of what I've come across in terms of what other people think the future looks like, and to get the conversation going this morning. First of all, generational approaches will vary. I've got two daughters who are in the late 20s and early 30s, and they themselves and their peers are approaching this with a different mindset from myself and my peers. And we'll see, I'm sure we will see that across the different generational groups. 24% of businesses are either stopped or delayed. I mean, I've got one customer here in South Wales with about 50 employees, and they've got 40 people on furlough. So they've been, whilst they've not quite stopped, they've almost stopped. Those still trading, 55% say turnover is down. And certainly for agile programs, I can say my turnover in April, May, and June will be down on where I expected it to be. I'm actually quite pleased that I've still got turnover I can invoice. So, but it's less than I was forecasting at the beginning of the year. Digital transformation acceleration. And what I mean by that is the adoption of technologies like we're using this morning with Zoom to transact business. So one of my neighbours works for one of the big high street banks and runs a team, and he made a comment to me a couple of weeks ago that his organisation, this pandemic, had accelerated. His organisation have achieved more in terms of digital transformation in the previous 5 weeks than they had in the previous 5 years. So the pandemic has really pushed through changes, and many of those changes will stay with us. Consumer confidence is affected. Certainly, myself and most of my friends and people I know are conscious of watching the pennies that they spend, because we just don't know how long it's going to last. I think home working is here to stay. I mean, as I said on one of the earlier webinars, I've been working at home for a long time now, and I'm well practiced with it. I think, listening to my customers, I've got a number of customers who have said to me, do we really need all this office space? I've moved people out, they're working from home, it's working, and it's been effective. They now have a question mark in their mind about, do they need to continue to rent large office spaces? And I'd summarize that as simply saying the world will be different. And the context of your business and your customers will be different from mine. And the webinar is about helping you have some tools so you can get hopefully a clearer understanding of what you think your future will look like and where those opportunities will be. So the first sort of reference point I'm going to is a company called ING. ING are a global bank based in the Netherlands with operations, large operations in the UK. And they've been publishing, they operate in the investment markets, and they've been publishing some well-researched information and forecasts about the pandemic. So, and if you want to read more detail, if you look at the bottom of the slide, you'll see there is a link there where you can find the forecasts, because I have just included a snippet of it in the presentation. So they have created 4 scenarios. What we're looking at the moment is what they call their base case. So this is where ING think we are most likely to end up, although that is by no means certain. So they're predicting full lockdowns by end of summer. Full lockdowns end by the end of summer. That will vary by country. And we may even see that within the UK. We may even see regional variations between Wales and England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. We're starting to hear noises around that from the regional governments. Global global travel remains restrictive. I think there's going to be 3 factors impacting that. One is government advice. The second one is consumer confidence. It's going to take some. I am going to take some persuading to go through an airport and jump on a plane again until there is a proven vaccine available. Winter outbreak is seen as more manageable, and in the UK, we've seen some of the emergency hospital capacity that was constructed quickly is being stepped down. Certainly in London, because the sort of peak of the pandemic has passed, hopefully. So therefore, we've got that capacity, and the winter outbreak is seen as more manageable. And social distancing remains a feature for 6 to 12 months. And finally, the home working stays in place where possible. So that's their the sort of where expectation in terms of where we'll be. In terms of the health drivers, that's based on widespread testing being available, good contact tracing being available, progress being made on a vaccine, but probably not widely available until next year, and then critical surge capacity increases. So if we do have a recurrence of the outbreak, we've got the capacity to handle it in the health systems. So that's their base case. They also published 3 other scenarios: scenario 2, 3, and 4. So I'll briefly look at those. Scenario 2 is winter lockdowns return. Scenario 3 is the best case. That's a optimistic view of where we could end up. And scenario 4 is the worst case, a pessimistic view of where we could end up. So let's look at those in a bit more detail. Scenario 2, winter lockdowns return. So the full lockdown finishes over the summer, and then by winter, whenever that might be, December, January, we're back in lockdown because of return of the virus. Social distancing is then likely to be in place rather than 6 to 12 months for 12 months. Travel remains restricted, and the home working guidance stays in place. Scenario 3, the best case, and this is very optimistic. Full lockdowns end over the summer. Social distancing is phased out over the summer. Travel returns to normal, and businesses return to normal. And then scenario 4, the worst case, is full lockdowns are in place until the year end. So, we've got another 8 and a bit months or 8 months of continuing as we are. So that extends the social distancing in place for 12 to 18 months, and then travel remains restricted. So the idea behind scenario planning is, when we look at the future, it is unpredictable. By having scenarios in mind, it helps us to plan for what we feel is probably the most likely to happen. So take those away and think about those in the context of your business and your customers, and how that is going to drive behaviour and opportunity. The next excuse me. The next reference point is from PwC. PwC are a global accounting and professional services organisation. This was published on the 29th of April this year. And the reference link is in the references at the end of the presentation that I'll show you. And they talk about 5 factors that are impacting the community. So supply chain disruption. Supply chains are going through this massive change. We have, and both in terms of getting goods into shops in the UK because of the way consumers have been emptying the shelves, and also, the vulnerability we have in terms of the amount of imports we bring in, or imports of critical goods. Labour supply reduction. Companies are affected by the fact they can't necessarily operate as well as they can because they've got people ill, they've got people on furlough, they're having to implement social distancing, they may well have people who are not available to work because they're having to care for others. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that is reducing the labour supply. Uncertainty impacts. So, and this is the consumer confidence piece and business confidence piece. And business confidence is a good indication of optimism. I started, and I would talk about myself with agile programs. I started the year with a plan on creating new opportunities for myself by doing some training. I've now got the time to train, or will have during this month, but, and it is a big but for me, do I want to invest some of my cash in training? and that's something I have to ponder. Whereas earlier in the year, when I was feeling very confident about the future, I would have just booked the training. Next piece is sector partial or full lockdowns. We can expect some of that to continue. And then finally, policy reactions, which is government intervention. And I think we can expect to see that to continue in various ways over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. I'd summarise those around 4 points in terms of what to expect and plan around. The first one is it's anyone's guess where we'll be in 12 months. Look at your own business, talk to your customers, and I'll return to the theme of listening to your customers and listening to your employees later on in the presentation, and make your own determination about what's good for your business. Travel disruption, especially travel, will continue. I do some work for I do quite a bit of work outside the UK. That will continue, albeit on a lower volume, but will all be done and using Zoom or Teams or WebEx or whichever application, rather than travel. Customer expectations will change. Certainly, talking with my customers, their expectations around the level of business they're expecting, and the relationship with their customers and staff is changing their expectations of what they want from themselves. And then finally, economic recovery is going to be dependent on a vaccine being available. Most of the forecasting sources of research are in complete agreement around the dependency on a vaccine being available. So that is likely, once, I'm being optimistic there, once it's available and widely available, we'll likely start to see some of that pent-up demand that's been bottled up returning back to the market. We're now going to look at some tools that will help you identify those future opportunities, and to do that, I've got 4 tools I'm going to take you through, and rather than just talk about a dry tool, which can probably be a little bit boring, I've tried to make it more lively, and I've used a mock case study. We're going to look at a tool like Pestle and SWOT, and then apply that to an imaginary business called Barry's Bike Shop. So the first tool is Pestle, which is a macro analysis tool. And what I mean by that is it looks at those macro factors that affect all businesses and communities. And they are political factors, economic, social, technology, legal, and environmental. So an example of each of them. So a political factor affecting businesses are the changes we've seen in Britain over the last 5 years as Brexit has come into played itself out and become an actuality. And that's a good example of a political factor. An economic factor is the current circumstances where we are seeing changes in demand and GDP because of the pandemic. Social factors. A good example of social factor and technology is the wide availability of smartphones over the last 15 years has created this phenomena of social media. And social media has changed behavior, changed how people communicate, and is having a big social impact. But that's been driven because of a technology change, the affordable availability of smartphones and tablets. Legal factors are legislation that change what we can do. So that could be changes to VAT, for instance, or the example I have that affects self-employed business is the changes that the government is planning to bring in around IR35, which affects people who are self-employed and contracting. And then finally, environmental. The environment has taken a little bit of a back burner during the pandemic for obvious reasons. However, a good example of a environmental factor forcing through change is the uptake of electric cars. So, electric cars are are better for the environment. And the technology change of having that battery capability there has enabled the environmental factors to drive the uptake of electric cars, despite the fact they are considerably more expensive. So let's have a look at Barry's Bike Shop. So, and owning a bike shop has always been one of those sort of pipe dreams of mine. Not that I do much cycling now, but anyway. So in terms of political factors, the example I've got, and Barry's Bike Shop is a local bike shop with 3 or 4 employees, a shop, a small online business, and also a workshop and store. So a political example is how can we influence the creation of more cycle lanes in the local community? This will encourage more cyclists. If you look at the success Bristol have had in using cycle lanes to get people to work, it's a commonly used method of commuting in Bristol. So that's a political factor that is affecting the demand for cycling. Economic factors. Currently there's an increased demand for delivery cyclists in city centres. Companies like Deliveroo and other food delivery companies need cyclists to get their orders out to their clients, to their customers. Social factors. Cycling is seen as a family and environmentally friendly activity. It's good for your health, it's family bonding time, it's environmentally friendly because you're not pumping out lots of fumes into the atmosphere. So that's a social factor that's affecting the cycling opportunity. Technology factors. Electric bikes are enabling people to cycle and exercise, enabling more people to cycle and exercise. Cycling is physically quite tough. I've got several friends who are either cyclists and use electric bikes to extend the distance they can cover with ease, or are non-cyclists and are using an electric bike to get some exercise because they still have to work. So that's an example of a technological factor that's changing the cycling business. Legal factors. Well, the simple one is cycle shops are currently allowed to operate because they're providing people with a means of transport and exercise. Secondly, implementing social distancing in Barry's Bike Shop is difficult. It's not a big shop. So that's a second factor that's influencing my business. And then environmental factors. Less traffic on the road currently is making the road safer and encouraging more people to cycle, which is good for the bike shop. So that's a quick run around the pestle example, and I would encourage you to do that for your own business and look at those factors and how they're influencing and driving and creating opportunity for your business. The next tool is a SWOT analysis. Now, Dewey assures me that because you're on the program, you've all used a SWOT, so you are very familiar with what a SWOT analysis is. So rather than try and explain it in detail, we've gone straight into Barry's Bike Shop. Broadly, strengths and weaknesses are internal to the business, and opportunities and threats are external to the business. In terms of strengths, that have local community relationships, technical expertise. I've got a couple of good guys who work in the shop who are excellent mechanics. That doesn't include me. Innovative, we've got an innovative website and 500 regular customers. So look at the strengths within your own business and assess them, because they will help you identify opportunities. Weaknesses. So I've got no marketing skills in-house. Repair and servicing time is always fully booked. That means I turn customers down, and I don't like doing that. I've got limited shop space to display the new electric models. So I see electric bikes as being a good opportunity. I need more space to show the models. And also to go along with that, my guys are good at working on traditional bikes. They're less good with the electric bikes. I need to get them some training to build the skills up. In terms of opportunities, electric bikes, I won't go on any more about those. A larger shop or a separate shop dedicated to electric bikes. I could offer more financing options, especially some of the upmarket models can be quite expensive. If I can offer financing models, it might make it easier for people to buy. And then finally, a way of providing second-hand bikes for young children, or recycling children's bikes that keeps the families engaged with my business. Anyone with young families will know you buy a bike for a child in April, and by the time you get to October, often they've outgrown that bike. And then finally, threats. So the large national chains sell stuff really cheaply. E-commerce sites offer people a different type of service, and I'm not really playing there at the moment. And then finally, heavy traffic pushing people away from cycling is a real threat. So I know lots of people who are nervous about cycling on the road, and that inhibits them taking up their pastime. So that's a SWOT analysis and an example of how that's been used, looking at Barry's Bike Shop, and hopefully that will help you take the concept away and apply that within your own business. The next tool is the business model canvas. So a canvas concept originated in lean management and design thinking. And it's a way to quickly create ideas around a concept. So the canvas concept is used in a number of different areas. This just happens to apply to the business model. So, it captures concepts around key components of any business. So partners, activities, value propositions, customer relationships, channels, which are routes to market, revenue streams, cost structure, and customer segments. So here's an example I put together for the bike shop. In terms of key partners, I've listed on there some suppliers, Trek Bikes, and three of the cycling distributors where I can buy cycling accessories and bikes. And they're fundamental to, I need suppliers. I can't sell bikes unless I'm getting them from somewhere. Key activities. So these are the activities we do to generate value. So cycle sales, cycling accessories, cycle repairs and servicing, cycling clothing, and then the local cycling community that I sponsor and organise. Key resources. So I've got the assets, the shop, the workshop, cycling website, the staff skills and experience, which is invaluable. I've already said I'm not particularly good at doing the mechanics bit, and also my stock. I have to keep a broad range of bikes so that when people come into the shop, they can try different sizes, different shapes, and different styles of bikes. And if a family of 4 people come in, they will all be different sizes and all need a different type of bike. I'll come back to the value proposition. I've got some customer segments highlighted with cycling club members, family cyclists, and off-road cyclists. I've got channels, and by channels I mean how do I sell the market and the marketing channels that I use. So we're looking at social media, website, club meetings, email. The shop is my primary sort of retail outfit, and then the workshop. And people bring the stuff to the workshop and ask for it. It's not just about charging services. They'll quite often come in and ask for advice, and that helps promote the relationship and keep customers loyal to the business. And then the value proposition. Right? And this is how do I create value for them? So a family-friendly cycle store, high level of expertise, wide range of bikes for all ages, and then we make the buying easy with some financing options. And then the last 2 pieces of the business model canvas are the cost structure. So I've got shop and workshop overhead, I've got salaries, and then a general overhead. And then the revenue streams. Where are you going to get my revenue streams? So new bike sales, repairs and servicing, and accessories and clothing. And the business model canvas is a really quick and easy way to build a broad stroke picture of your business and test its viability. It enables you to really think through quickly what you need in any business to make it go. And then the next tool, and the last one, is listen. And listen to your customers. Ask them questions, find out where they're going, and do listen to the responses. Talk to your employees. They will have loads of ideas about the business. Listen to them. They'll be talking with customers, and listening to customers. They'll have ideas of their own. So ask them. Partners and suppliers. In the previous slide, I listed some partners and suppliers to the bike shop. So talk to your own. Find out where they see the future, what challenges they see, what opportunities they see. Look at your competition. Right? We all have competition. If we believe we don't have competition, I would argue you're probably kidding yourself. There will be someone else out there doing what you're doing. Look at them, identify them, find out what they're doing well, find out what they're not doing well. Business leaders, right? There are a number of high-profile business leaders around. I won't mention any names, but you'll have your own favorites. These guys are often well-educated and have lots of people providing them with ideas and content. So find some that you respect and research what their thoughts are on the future. Business help organisations. So CEFN is here to help you with several of these, and Dairy would love to engage with you and help you move through and identify opportunities for your businesses moving forward. And finally, the last 2 are the banks. So banks, as we've seen with the information from ING, can be very good at producing information, helping you with networking. Some are better than others. and we all have our own favourites. But working closely with your bank can be helpful to you in terms of identifying new opportunities. And finally, the informed press. So, and the reason I've used the phrase informed press is please go to creditable sources for information. We all have our own favourites. Mine tend to be the Economist, who produce well researched, objective information. I've included stuff here from ING and PwC, again, very credible, well-researched organisations. Please don't just take stuff from social media and accept it as gospel. Find your own creditable, informed sources and use those. So, but the key message here is listen and research. Out of that listening and research, you will identify the future opportunities. And then a last thought for you. I saw this on LinkedIn yesterday and loved it. I won't read the words. The picture is a diagram of a Second World War plane, and the red dots are the tracking of bullet holes and damage done to returned planes, planes that returned to base during the Second World War. And the RAF employed a Hungarian mathematician to help them identify where to put the armor. And the mathematician surprised them because he recommended they place the armor in areas other than where the red holes are. And his reasoning, and this was very successful, right? His reasoning for that was the red holes were that indicated the damage to the successful planes, those that returned home and could be repaired. The armor was to increase the number of planes coming home, and they didn't have the evidence of where the damage was being done. So he placed the armor on areas other than where the red holes are. And this phenomena is called a survivorship bias, and it's a logic error where you focus on things that survived when also you should be looking at things that didn't. So what I'm saying here is, as well as looking at successful models when you're doing your research and looking for opportunity, also look at ones that have failed, because there will be really valuable learnings in there that can help point you at the opportunity for the future. So we come to a list of references, and if you're online, I suggest you take a screenshot of this so you've got the references. But the tools, there's some information areas from PwC, The Economist, ING, and then some information on the tools from pestlanalysis.com, Strategizer, and the last one on SWOT is a video on YouTube I found. So please do go to the references. Please do take a screenshot, and again, please do use the tools. And then finally, we identifying future opportunities action plan. So a very simple table, right? I won't run through the detail I put in here. Write your plan down. By writing it down, you're committing to action. It will move forward. It also acts as a communication tool. I'm basically the only person in my business. I still need to communicate my plan to other people, so I write it down. If there's 2 or more of you in the business, having something written down helps you communicate, as well as helping that commitment to activity. So thank you for listening. Dare we over to you for questions?
Yes, thank you, Barry. We have a few questions that have come in today, so we'll go through them. The first that's come in is, where can I find more information on how to fill in the PESTLE, the business model canvas, the SWOT analysis, and so forth.
So if you take a screenshot of this.
Also to add that these links will be available on our resource list as well.
Right. So go to those links. Drop myself or Dewi an email. I'm always happy to have a conversation and provide people with advice.
Okay. The next question that's come in is, does the PricewaterhouseCoopers forecast include businesses in Wales?
It's for the UK, which by default includes Wales. I'm not sure if it broke the detail out. Again, if you go to the link on this page, you will be able to look at the detail.
Okay. This one's quite pertinent. There's so many different messages coming from everywhere. Who shall I be listening to?
That is a difficult one. We're all mature people. I think you have to make your own judgment on that. I would encourage you to listen to your customers, listen to your suppliers, talk with your peers, and then make judgment about who to listen to. You can answer that better than I can. All I would add to that is when you are reading research, please do go to creditable, authoritative resources.
Yes, I would back that up. Obviously, as part of the CEFN program, or as a member of the CEFN program and family, we will be trying to give you the most accurate, impartial, and honest advice that we can. But we do recommend that you look around and research, as Barry mentioned, other reputable sources. And our last question has come in. My business is closed, so how can I change or make a change to take advantage of any new opportunities?
So, and it is tough when your business is closed. I do recognise that. And I mean, many of us are self-employed, take our motivation from interaction with clients, and that isn't there. So again, that's tough. I can only relate that to my own activity, and one, you can still ring. Your business might be closed. You can still ring your customers and talk with them. So please do that, or email them and ask some questions. The other thing is do some training, right? There's lots and lots of free or very low cost training available on the market. Do some training and build some new skills that fit with your current offer, that will help your clients when the market starts to open up more.